So the next time you're, sitting there sipping cucumber water in a softly lit salon, I want you to really look closely at the person doing your nails.
Yeah, you probably think they're just performing a cosmetic service.
Right. But according to the rigorous licensing manuals they actually had to memorize, they're essentially running a mathematically precise, high-stakes biohazard containment zone.
It's true. I mean, the margin for error when dealing with human biology is terrifyingly thin, even if, there's ambient acoustic music playing in the background to kind of distract you from it.
Exactly. You're paying for this illusion of effortless pampering, but creating that illusion requires, intense clinical discipline.
Absolutely.
So today for our deep dive, we're pulling our source material from the Beauty Care NC 2 Professional Assessment Guide.
Which is the official manual from TESDA for aspiring beauty care professionals.
Right. It's the literal playbook for how an individual proves they are safe and competent enough to physically touch a client. And, because this is an assessment guide, a manual meant for people who are actively trying to learn and master a trade, we're going to take a deliberate, steady, sort of student-friendly pace today. Yeah, no rushing. Just a clear, methodical breakdown of the fascinating science and safety that really holds the beauty industry together.
And that actually aligns perfectly with the philosophy of the guide itself. Rushing is basically the enemy of safety. I mean, before a professional can even think about picking up a makeup brush or a nail file, they have to master the physical environment.
Right, so let's start there. Let's look at the hidden math and chemistry of the salon, specifically, sanitation.
Oh, this is huge.
Because most of us probably use words like cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting just interchangeably in our daily lives. I mean, I definitely do.
Oh, for sure. But in a professional setting, mixing those up is an automatic failure.
Wait, really? Automatic?
Yes, because they mean entirely different things in a laboratory sense. The guide breaks sanitation down into this really strict 4-level hierarchy.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So first, there's cleaning, which is simply the mechanical removal of visible dirt and debris, just wiping things down.
Okay.
Then comes sanitizing, which is reducing microorganisms to a level that's, generally considered safe.
Okay, so that's level 2.
Right. Next is disinfecting, which actually destroys most harmful microorganisms.
Yeah.
And then at the very top is sterilizing, which destroys absolutely everything, including microscopic bacterial spores.
And the unbreakable golden rule here, which the guide stresses heavily, is that cleaning always comes first.
Always.
It kind of makes me think of doing the dishes after dinner. You
Yeah.
know, you can't just spray bleach on a plate that's still covered in leftover spaghetti.
Exactly.
You have to physically scrub the food off first
Yeah.
before the chemical can actually reach the ceramic surface of the plate.
That's a perfect analogy. The organic matter, so the physical dirt, the skin cells, or natural oils left on a tool, it literally acts as a biological shield. It blocks the chemical disinfectants from penetrating.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, so assessors will fail a student instantly if they try to, say, drop a visibly dirty tool right into a sanitizing jar, because the chemistry fundamentally cannot work.
And speaking of chemistry, this requires a surprising amount of math.
It really does.
You don't just buy a magical bottle of quote-unquote disinfectant and spray it blindly.
Yeah.
You have to mix it using a very specific dilution formula.
Right, the C1V1 formula.
Yes. C1 times V1 equals C2 times V2.
Which basically means the concentration of your stock solution multiplied by its volume has to equal the concentration you need multiplied by the final volume you need.
Okay, so just visualize this. Imagine you're standing in the back room of a salon. You have this jug of, say, 70% concentrated hospital-grade chemical.
Right.
But you only need a 10% mix to soak your shears.
Yeah.
You have to calculate exactly how much of that raw chemical to extract and mix with water to achieve the precise volume and strength required.
And if you just eyeball it because you're in a hurry,
The results are disastrous.
completely disastrous.
Yeah.
Under-diluting or over-diluting a disinfectant isn't just a slight math error. It's a massive safety hazard.
Because if it's too weak, what happens?
If the mixture is too weak, you're basically just giving the pathogens a bath. I mean, they survive, and then you just pass them right on to the next client.
Yikes.
But if the mixture is too strong, you risk chemically burning the client's skin or, completely corroding your own expensive stainless steel tools.
It's such a delicate balance. And time is actually mathematically regulated too, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
There's a specific formula for client scheduling in the guide. It's clients per shift equals your total working minutes divided by the service time plus a buffer.
Mm-hmm.
So say an 8-hour shift is 480 minutes. A manicure takes 45 minutes plus a 15-minute buffer.
Yep.
That means you can safely see exactly 8 clients in that shift.
Exactly 8.
But I kind of have to defend the hustle here for a second, because if I'm a professional trying to pay rent, what is the actual harm in reducing that 15-minute buffer to like 5 minutes so I can squeeze in a 9th client at the end of the day?
I mean, I get the instinct, but the harm is a total cascade failure in your sanitation protocols.
Because of the rushing.
Right. That buffer time isn't a coffee break. It accounts for the strict, chemically required setup and disinfection cycles between clients.
Ah, the contact time.
Yes, chemical disinfectants require contact time. If a label says a tool has to be submerged for 10 minutes to kill a virus and you pull it out at 4 minutes because your next client is tapping their foot in the waiting area.
You're working with a contaminated tool.
Exactly. But the guide does offer a pretty brilliant structural solution to this.
Oh, right. The 2 sets of tools.
Yes. Keep 2 complete sets of tools in constant rotation. One is in use and the other is sitting in the disinfectant. You essentially engineer the physical space so that taking the safe route is actually faster than trying to cut corners.
That's so smart. Okay, so once the physical environment is mathematically and chemically secure, you introduce the most unpredictable variable in the room.
The client.
The client. This is where a professional really has to read the body. Before performing any service, they conduct a consultation to identify contraindications.
Right, which are conditions that either prevent or severely limit a service.
So for nail and skin care, a professional has to be able to differentiate between a harmless cosmetic issue and an actual medical red flag.
And that line is drawn very clearly. So a hangnail or Bose lines, which are those horizontal ridges you sometimes see across a nail plate, those are completely safe to service.
Even comedones, right? Like basic blackheads.
Yeah, even basic blackheads are safe to extract if done properly.
But then you have conditions like onychomycosis.
Yes, the fungal infection that makes the nail thick and crumbly.
Or paronychia, which is a swollen, infected cuticle. Or cystic acne.
And for those, the rule is absolute. You do not touch them, and you refer the client to a physician. The danger of cross-contamination is just way too high.
I really want to focus on that danger for a second, because it's so easy to read a long medical word like onychomycosis on a page and just brush it off as, a gross toenail.
Right.
But what is the actual mechanism of the danger there? Like, what happens if a professional ignores the rule and just takes a nail file to a fungal infection?
It's actually terrifying. So the friction of the nail file physically grinds that infected nail into a fine powder.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You are aerosolizing fungal spores. Those spores become airborne, they settle on your workstation, your clothes, and potentially they get sucked right into the salon's HVAC system.
Wow. So you've just taken a localized infection on one person's toe.
And turned the ambient air of the salon into a biohazard.
Exactly. Which really proves why identifying these conditions is so critical.
Yeah.
But, clients rarely know the clinical terms for their skin issues.
Yeah.
They aren't going to walk in and announce, hey, I have contact dermatitis.
No, of course not.
So how do you elicit this information without sounding like a doctor interrogating them?
It requires serious psychological finesse. You definitely avoid clinical interrogations. Asking, do you have any fungal infections? Usually just makes people defensive or embarrassed.
Right. No one wants to say yes to that.
Exactly. So instead, the guide teaches professionals to ask open-ended questions like, how would you describe your skin's sensitivity?
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah, you just let the client talk. They might say something like, oh, my skin gets really itchy and flaky around certain soaps, which gives you the exact clue you need.
Coupled with, obviously, a visual scan before you ever physically touch them.
Yes.
And the golden rule of this entire assessment phase is, when in doubt, don't proceed.
Yes.
And the way TESDA scores this during the actual exam is honestly fascinating.
It really is, because it's kind of counterintuitive. If a student sees a mysterious red patch on a client's arm, their initial instinct might be to just power through, like pretend they didn't see it, because they're terrified that admitting they don't know what it is will cost them points.
Right, like they're failing a PAP quiz.
Exactly. But the scoring rubric rewards the exact opposite behavior.
Right, so stopping the service, turning to the assessor, and stating, I see an inflamed area. I am not certain if it is a contraindication, so I'm going to refer this client to a doctor. That actually scores higher than guessing.
Yes, because acknowledging the limits of your own medical knowledge is the ultimate mark of professional competence. You are prioritizing the client's safety over your own ego.
That is so profoundly important. Shifting gears a bit to the actual procedures.
Let's do it.
So I have to admit, I've been cutting my own toenails wrong for 20 years, and the section on pedicures completely blew my mind.
Oh, the curving the edges thing.
Yes, human instinct, which is driven entirely by aesthetics, tells us to round off the corners of our nails so they look neat.
Yeah.
But rounding the edges of a toenail creates the exact ingrown nails you are trying to prevent.
It's just a simple matter of physics. Think about it. Your shoes exert constant inward pressure on the sides of your toes.
Right.
So if you cut the nail straight across, that pressure distributes evenly. But if you curve the edges down into the nail fold, that inward pressure from your shoe actually forces the sharp edge of the growing nail directly into the surrounding soft tissue.
It's just a biological reality overriding an aesthetic preference.
Exactly.
The pedicure protocols also mandate a soak second rule, meaning you must screen the feet for wounds or infections before the foot ever touches the water basin.
This is so crucial because if you soak an infected foot, the warm water acts as a perfect transmission medium.
It just spreads it everywhere.
Right. The pathogens disperse into the basin, coating the entire submerged area of the foot and leg and contaminating the equipment. So check first, soak second. It keeps the pathogens contained.
And we see that same friction between aesthetic desire and biological reality in manicures, too. I mean, people always want their cuticles aggressively pushed back and trimmed away for that clean, kind of elongated nail look.
Oh, I know. But the cuticle is literally a physical gasket.
It's a gasket.
Yeah, it forms a watertight seal protecting the nail matrix, which is the living growth center right at the base of the nail. If you forcefully push back or overcut that seal, you break the gasket.
And then what?
Bacteria and water can now enter the matrix, leading to painful infections and permanently deformed nail growth.
So you're basically dismantling the body's natural armor just to make the nail bed look a millimeter longer?
Exactly.
It's wild. And the procedures for facials rely on a very similar respect for the body's existing systems, right?
Right.
Like you massage from the top down and with outward strokes because you're actively pushing fluid along the body's natural lymphatic drainage pathways.
Right. Randomly rubbing the face might feel relaxing, but it actually fights against the biological current. You're trying to help the body clear out metabolic waste.
And even the water temperature matters. We all love the feeling of a steaming hot towel on our face. But the guide specifies using warm, not hot, water.
Because hot water physically strips the natural lipid barrier from the skin, leaving it totally dehydrated.
And dehydration ruins the subsequent moisturizing steps.
Exactly. Think about the very first step of any hand or foot spa, exfoliation. You are scrubbing away the stratum corneum, which is the outermost layer of dead skin cells.
Because those dead cells basically act as a biological shield.
Right. If you don't remove them, you can apply the most expensive, scientifically advanced moisturizing mask in the world, and the active ingredients will just sit uselessly on top of the dead skin. They literally cannot penetrate the barrier.
So every single step in these procedures is about preparing the biological canvas for the next step.
Precisely.
Which applies directly to the architecture of makeup, too. The guide treats makeup application less like painting and more like civil engineering.
I love that comparison.
Right. You're dealing with different viscosities, weights, and chemical reactions. The sequence is so rigid. Primer, foundation, concealer, setting powder, contour and blush, eyeshadow and eyeliner, mascara, and finally lipstick.
And the structural integrity completely depends on that order.
See, I actually found myself arguing with the guide when I read this part.
Oh, yeah. Why?
Because why does concealer come after foundation? Logically, as a layperson, it makes sense to aggressively hide the blemishes and dark circles first, and then paint a smooth layer of foundation over the whole face to kind of blend it all together.
I mean, it sounds intuitive, but physically it fails. Foundation is designed to even out the overall skin tone, right? It accomplishes about 80% of the visual work.
Okay, that makes sense.
But if you carefully place liquid concealer on a blemish first, and then drag a wet sponge or a brush loaded with liquid foundation over that exact same spot, the friction and the moisture of the foundation will lift the concealer right off the skin.
Oh, so you're just pushing the pigment around and wiping away your own detailed work.
Yeah, exactly. You lay the foundation first to see what blemishes are actually still visible through it, and then you surgically target those remaining spots with concealer.
So you're using less product overall.
Right. It prevents the makeup from looking heavy and cakey because you're only layering products where it's absolutely necessary.
The order is really just about risk mitigation, which is why mascara is saved for the absolute end.
Oh, definitely. If you make a mistake with eyeshadow, you can easily wipe it away. But a smear of jet black mascara across a perfectly powdered, contoured cheek is basically catastrophic. You essentially have to demolish the house and start over.
It's tragic. And color correcting relies on the same precise mechanics, right? Using the color wheel to neutralize, rather than just burying the skin under thick layers of beige pigment.
Right. So a client with redness from an acne flare-up doesn't need thicker skin-colored makeup. They need a green color corrector because green chemically cancels out red.
And if they have deep bluish-purple circles under their eyes.
You apply a peach or orange corrector to neutralize the blue.
And crucially, you have to verify these color matches in the correct environment. The guide absolutely insists on matching foundation undertones along the jawline in natural light.
Yes. Artificial salon bulbs cast a yellow or blue hue that completely masks the reality of the pigments.
Right. So a foundation might look perfectly blended under a fluorescent ring light, but the second the client steps out onto the sidewalk, this harsh line of demarcation appears on their neck.
Because the environment changes the optical properties of the chemistry?
It really is science.
Yes.
So understanding the environment, the biology, the chemistry, and the physical architecture of the products, all of this is what prepares a student for the final crucible, the TESDA oral questioning and physical assessment.
And it is intense.
The sheer volume of these rules just feels impossible to hold in your head, especially while an examiner is standing over your shoulder with a clipboard. And the margin for error is zero.
Zero.
The guide lists these critical warnings, which are automatic red flags.
Right. If you commit one of these errors, the exam terminates immediately. Things like reusing a disposable item, like a wooden cuticle pusher or a cotton pad on multiple clients, skipping hand washing between services, breaching client confidentiality.
So your technical skill with a makeup brush becomes entirely irrelevant if you violate basic safety.
Absolutely irrelevant.
And the examiners throw these brutal situational scenarios at the students during the oral drill to test their reflexes. Like, they will ask, midway through a manicure, the client's cuticle starts bleeding slightly from over-trimming. What do you do?
And an unprepared student might panic and suggest trying to quickly wipe the blood away with a towel and applying polish to hide it.
Which is a huge fail.
Huge. The mandatory response is to stop the service immediately, apply first aid using a styptic powder to halt the bleeding, and immediately inform the assessor of the exposure incident.
Or they'll ask, what if you run out of cotton pads while removing nail polish?
You excuse yourself and retrieve a fresh supply from a sanitized container. Under no circumstances do you flip over a used piece of cotton and try to squeeze a few more swipes out of it.
Never. But knowing the rules is one thing, right? Retrieving them under the adrenaline of an exam is another, and the guide actually reveals a really specific strategy for surviving that oral drill.
Oh, I love this part.
When an assessor asks a student why, after they perform a specific sanitation step, the worst thing the student can do is just recite the textbook rule.
Right, because reciting the rule proves you have good short-term memory, but it doesn't prove actual comprehension. The real strategy is to answer with the actual biological risk you are actively preventing.
So if the assessor asks, why are you submerging those stainless steel clippers in that solution? You don't just say, because the manual requires level 3 disinfection for metal implements.
No, you look at the assessor and say, to prevent cross-contamination and ensure I do not transmit bloodborne pathogens or fungal infections like onychomycosis from my previous client to my next client.
You name the biological threat.
Yes. It shifts the entire dynamic from, I am blindly following a bureaucratic rule, to, I am actively protecting a human being.
And that shift in perspective is the core philosophy of a licensed professional.
It really is. Beauty care requires this rare synthesis of highly technical skills and intense interpersonal empathy. It's a demanding discipline that blends math, chemistry, biology, and the strictest safety standards imaginable.
Well said.
Actually, I want to share a quote from the guide that perfectly distills everything we've explored today. It says, "Steady hands, clean tools, and a calm client are the real marks of competence. The certificate just confirms it."
That's a great quote. The true test isn't just passing the TESDA exam. It's the daily, invisible commitment to safety when no one is watching with a clipboard.
Exactly.
Which actually raises a really fascinating question for everyone listening to mull over.
Yeah.
What other everyday services do you consume, assuming they are purely cosmetic or simple, when they are secretly held together by an invisible web of rigorous scientific and safety protocols?
Wow. It really makes you look at the world a little differently.
It does.
So the next time you walk into a salon, and you smell the essential oils, and you hear that
Yeah.
relaxing acoustic music. Remember, you aren't just stepping into a place of relaxation. You are stepping into a highly functioning, mathematically precise, biosecure zone.
And thank goodness for that.
Truly. Well, that is all for today's deep dive. We will see you next time.